Kimberly Fickus, Pam Beaver.
Scott McVeigh.
Terry Lincoln.
Paul Kelly, General Manager, and our Chief Plant Operator, Bill Mason, is also here.
Next is open time, public comments. Nobody?
I have a public comment.
Okay,
Do I need to go up there?
if you would like.
I would rather just stand right here.
Okay, that's fine with me.
I want to thank Bill and Paul for helping me arrange a tour of the filtration plant. We're gonna do that next Friday, 10 o'clock, and we're bringing members of our car club. We're limited to 10, so we have 5 classic cars that will be coming to see Bill and his crew, so.
Are they gonna give you one?
Probably not.
I see there's a car show Sunday.
Yeah.
Will they be parking there, leaving the keys in for us?
Probably not.
No.
I love a classic.
Any other comments? Okay, we don't have a consent agenda. We've got, old new business, the review of 2021 rate increase rationale. Discussion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. At the March 20th board meeting, we had a conversation about the water usage rate ordinance. And you directed me to post a special meeting on the 3rd to review the rate rationale that was passed in August of 2021, effective September of 2021, and that the rationale is in its 3rd year due for a review. So, though I put this as kind of a workshop because I'm hoping, it'll be conversational, it is technically still a special meeting, so that's why, even though I brought out this table, and would have used Pam's table to maybe have it more down here, I think we'll just make this work. There's in the packet, and there's copies in the back. There's a little memo from me that provides a little history. There's also the actual rationale, or the most current one that was approved on August 30th of 2021. Then there's the attached, all of the ordinances that have been passed since that rate rationale. And then there's a little section there for the 6B, which is just some background for the rates and how they're calculated. So, in my memo, I point out that most of you were here and recall that the board appointed a citizens advisory committee in 2020 to start the process of doing a rate study, rationale, and proposal, with the stated goal to put the district on a more stable financial footing and to bring that for the board's consideration in mid-2021. In spring of 2021, the district board took the recommendation and adopted an ordinance to initiate the Prop 218 process to increase rates and to adopt the rationale. And in compliance with Prop 218, the board started that process in June of 2021, approving that rationale and holding informational meetings. In mid-July, they mailed a 45-day notice setting August 30th, 2021 as the public hearing and protest letter due date. The board then approved the ordinance for the rates based on the rationale as enclosed in here, and stated in the notice of public hearing sent to all property owners on how the rates were calculated section. So that's page 20 of the rationale. So when they approved that, they approved a rate structure. I mean, I think some people get confused on it, but it's a rate structure for water service fees, and it has 2 components, primary components. A fixed monthly base charge, and it also has a fixed escalator, or inflation of 1.9%. And then it also has a second component, which is a variable water consumption-based usage rate, This also had within it a sort of a subcategory of a contingency for a drought rate, which was prescient in September of 2021, since one of the next ordinances you'll see in that list was actually establishing a drought rate in 2022. And that was also since it was expected that sourcing water from other than the Bureau would be more expensive. So under the new rates, the fixed monthly base rate was calculated to start at $55 a month, increase each fiscal year 1.9%, and you can see that in every single rate ordinance that was passed since then and starting then has that 5-year charted schedule. The water rates would be adjusted over the 5-year period based on the Bureau water rate schedule and the cost of materials and labor to treat water. And I would just point out to you that was under Section 6 of Prop 218 and covered by the government code that's included in some of the old Prop 218 items. The approval on the 20 August of 2021, the new rate switch approved fixed rate, usage rate, and its calculation to be changed with a 30-day notice. So any change, the drought rate too would have to take a 30-day notice. The subsequent changes to the usage rate would be cost change done by the board with a notice, and you've seen those charts and those attached items. I would just mention that in this rate rationale, the last page of the rate rationale has its what is often referred to as attachment 6, which is this guy right here, and all it has down there is treatment materials and labor treatment standby. So Bill at the time in 2021 took it upon themselves to expand that and be more open and clear what the treatment materials would be. But really the subject here is about the rationale, and so as I mentioned in my report that on page 9 of the rationale, there's a paragraph there that says, I should have it open to that, but it says right near the end, of course I've got all kinds of highlights all over the place here. However, an analysis should be completed annually by the Finance Committee, the board to determine if our financial needs are being met. In 3-year, a process to adjust the rate could be commenced in case you felt that it was not keeping track. So I'm just going to use that to jump to a little section that I put together as a quick analysis. First, I would say that when the Finance Committee last year reviewed and recommended a budget before the board, and the board approved that budget, which we're currently under, that was part of its annual review. And so in January, based on that updated budget process, we did our 6-month review. You might recall it's on your board's agenda. It was this document. All of the folks in the audience here will see it. It was a posted packet. There's even still some copies back there, old copies back there. And the base rate at $55 when this rate rationale was approved was calculated to cover $1.7 million of expenses. And as a matter of fact, in the report, the number is $1,757,000, blah, blah, blah. And that was based on the expenses for distribution and wells, admin, customer service, and then labor for distribution, customer accounts, and the general manager. So if you just look, the current base rate is $57.11. That's a 3.8% increase over the $55 base rate in 2021. And we'll get into this, but I think most people would acknowledge that is well behind inflation since 2021. But the revenue, the absolute max revenue projected under this rationale would have been 1.857, or 1,857,000. In your FY24 budget, by the way, it's on our website, you can download it, you can look at it. We had budgeted distribution, wells, admin, customer accounts, distribution labor, customer accounts labor, and general manager, 1.8 million, okay? So that was in conformance with that annual review. If you take the actuals from our January report and you just double them, and we know darn well that we had a lot of leaks last fall, and hopefully we won't have as many this coming fall. But we're tracking that more in our distribution expenses. We're tracking less in our wells expenses. We're tracking more in our admin and customer accounts expenses. Most of that because of the cost of our computer software and update. And we remember we adjusted the budget for that. I'm just using the first budget approval. Our distribution labor is up because of overtime. Our customer and accounts labor is down. Our GM cost is less than what we projected. And I also need to mention that, Centerville does reimburse us, so there's other revenue than just the raw revenue. But we're at about 2.1 million if you just double those, which is covered by Centerville reimbursements and our property taxes. So I guess long and short of it is the rate rationale has accomplished its primary goal stated in that in the rate rationale, which was to put the district on a stable financial basis. But I will just say that you will notice in the rate rationale, and you will notice in something significantly missing that is in every other district rate rationales, and that is there's nothing in ours related to capital improvements, major repairs, or anything else related to that. It was really focused on getting the district on some financial level footing. I might add that the district has also put 1.8% of the base rate in the reserves, tracking to be about $28,000, give or take, but you saw that in our half-year review. The second component of the financial review would be related to the usage rate and to treatment. Again, in our approved budget, we had a $600,000 and change in water sales, that's ag and M&I combined. We had bureau costs of $153,000. We also had McConnell costs, but that was taken care of because of the, we were using the, and we're paying for that from the fines, remember that we had before. We had utilities, $75,000, chemicals, that includes chlorine, polymer, PAC, all the rest, $70,000. We had O&M at $80,000. We had labor at $250,000. You might also recall in our rate sheets back when we were doing this, we based all of those per acre foot expenses on 3,000 acre feet going through the treatment plant for us. And as I reported multiple times over the last month, we have only had 2,200 acre feet go through that. So if you just take our half-year expenses and double them, our utility expenses are $52,000, so that's about $20,000 less than what we're budgeted for. Our chemical costs are $51,000, again, about $20,000 less than what we budgeted for. Our O&M costs are $95,000, are tracking at $95,000. That's $15,000 to $20,000 more than what we budgeted for. And our labor costs are a little less, probably like in the $220,000 to $230,000. It doesn't include some other costs of treatment like water quality testing. You know, you got to take your water to the labs and get it tested. It doesn't cover fuel for the trucks and the computer or skate upgrade and all the rest. That's covered by general admin. So if you just look at this, you go, okay, well, again, for the stated goal, the expenses are being covered by the cost of the water. We obviously have less expense in utilities and chemicals. Guess what? It's 25% less than what we budgeted for. Guess what? 2,200 acre feet is 25% less than 3,000 acre feet. So again, the board did a really good job on its budget last time. And also, you know, some of these costs we get shared with Centerville. So again, reasonably and accurate, the rate rationale is accomplishing its goal. We are also putting 4.1% of our rate into one of the reserve accounts, and that's tracking on about $23,000 by the end of the year. So that is the financial side of that. I would say we have complied with that element of it. So the issues identified in the 2021 rate rationale, like using reserves because of insufficient rates and lots of deferred maintenance, the lack of major repair and capital funds, are still challenges for the district. The base rate has numbers for rebuilding reserves, but there's nothing in it to implement a capital improvement plan. There wasn't one in 2021, but we all know that our pipes need to get replaced at some point and all the rest. The base rate replacing aging pipes, there wasn't anything in it. The base rate schedule is to increase 1.9%. Since 2021, it will be basically, it's 3.8% more. And it'll eventually get to 5.7% higher for base rate than it was in 2021. And since 2021, inflation has gone up between 18 and 20%. You can debate which number is right, doesn't matter, we all know, we've all seen it. I mean, if you're not paying 30% more for your PG&E bills, then you're doing a really good job cutting your usage. The increase in costs of the district are really outpacing the rate revenue. The other thing in the usage rates, the district did not take into consideration water loss in developing the usage rates. Now, again, until I started looking at our water loss issues a few months ago, I don't think we had a really good handle on what our water loss is. And I'm still trying to catch up my spreadsheets, but you know, we're tracking from March to September of last year, we were tracking about 14% water loss between what was going through the treatment plant and what we were getting paid, okay? Now, some of that water loss, a very small percentage of that was in the conduit, some of it was leaks and other things, so my sense is we're around 10% water loss. Again, not taking into consideration in the rate rationale. It's pretty clear that chemicals is part of materials in the treatment plant, but you gotta look at this this back page again of this beautiful rate rationale, and when you read it, again, this will be for the board's discussion. You know, what makes up the rate rationale calculation? You know, Bill's spreadsheet did a good job of saying, well, we probably should be a little more clear to the community and to the board what materials is. So right now we have in there chemicals, chlorine, polymer, pack, and we have utilities. You can't run the plant without electricity, so you can't treat people's water without it. And we have O&M, and we have labor. So, you know, the treatment plant's almost 30 years old, it's been underfunded for its repairs and maintenance, and that deferred maintenance costs need to be identified and funded in the district to continue to deliver clean, safe water. Again, we'll just mention in your packet, there's a list of ordinances, 2105, which was the original one passed to start the 218, 28, 08 and 09, and then you've got 2202, 2305, and 2308. 2308 is the one we're currently under. I would say, a couple of things. First of all, it's a little difficult to be put in a position to try to explain and defend something that I wasn't here for. But some things that are not clear in the rate rationale. It's not clear on the usage rate what all should be in there. I think on the next item, that's something you all can discuss more. It's not clear in my mind, other than it was the most palatable rate, why they selected 1.9% as an inflationary rate when it's pretty clear that it was going to go up after the pandemic. So again, let me just finish this little part and leave it to the workshop element of things. Because in the next item, the usage rate calculation, I've done a survey of all of our neighboring districts on what they're charging per unit, and we can talk a little bit about that. Again, they all have complied with Prop 218. So the Prop 218 process for your rate structure and your increased rate structure, which was followed. So this is the rules that we got to follow, even its vagaries. Included that 45-day notice period, and included the adoption of this rate rationale and that rate schedule. The district used Section 6, which was allowing for a multi-year rate increase to pass on charges, so we can go up to 5 years. So unless, so that's why there was a review after 3 years. If you wanted to somehow say it wasn't giving us enough money to operate, we can go out for another rate study. Don't really advise that. I think that would be a lot of time, effort, and I can assure you the result will be not what you want to see. But you have the multi-year rate increase, and it's also covered under Government Code 53756. There's copies of that all over the place here if you need to see that. But basically, that covers the usage rate part of the thing. So in other words, you have a schedule for fees, your base rate. And then under the usage rate, if an agency purchases wholesale water or water treatment, the schedule of fees, charges may provide for adjustments, automatic adjustments, to pass through any increases or decreases in the wholesale water changes adopted by the agency. And then this, I'm reading the CSDA's kind of version of this. An agency is not required to follow the 45-day notice provisions of California Constitutional Article 13D, Section 6A, that is Prop 13, when implementing any adjustment made pursuant to a schedule of fees, in this case our water usage fee, as authorized pursuant to Government Code 53756. However, the agency must provide written notice the adjustment not less than 30 calendar days prior to the effective date of the adjustment. So what the district has done in compliance with that, and you see it in every one of those ordinances that I listed in there, is they all have 30-day notices. In other words, you approve it, it's effective in 30 days. And so what happens is the district has sent out notices. Hey, the rates have changed, it's going to happen in 30 days. And the beauty of the way we operate is if you approve it on your regularly scheduled meeting, which is usually the third Wednesday of the month, it becomes effective the third Wednesday of the next month and doesn't actually show up on anybody's bills for 45 days after you've approved it. So one of the things that we did based on our meeting on the 20th is we put it on everybody's bill water rate increase is gonna be considered on April 17th. In other words, based on this, we didn't have to do that. We could have just done it on the 20th or done it on the 17th and then put it in there that the rates had gone up. But we've done that, it's in the newsletter, and obviously this workshop is for that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's just my quick, not so quick review, but also really felt like I needed to do the financial little element of that in compliance with page 9 of the rationale. So with that, any questions from the audience or from the board?
Does the board have any questions?
I have lots, but I don't know how you wanna go about doing it.
I don't either.
Lots. Lots are welcome.
And I have lots of comments.
Do you have lots of questions on what he just went over?
Yep.
Well, I guess we start with the board and then we can go to the audience.
Okay, so let's go to page 10 of the rate rationale. So I heard your numbers that you were referring to as far as expenses and what you were saying it was 1.7 or 1.8. But if I look at the bottom of that table, it's telling me that the expenses plus 10%, what they accounted for, and of course this is really more base rate than anything, or the expenses is $3,080,000. So we're right in line with that. So I don't see the 1.7. So it just seems like it's just a little off with what you were saying from what I read here. So that's just my take on it. Is that we did the expenses, the past board or the CAC put expenses plus 10% to take care of some of that over the years. And then if you
And I would just say that chart does track fairly well on our overall gross budget. So if you look at page 5, top of the page, where they have the conversation about coming up with rate proposals, that is where they got their base rate at $55 is taking that $1.757, dividing it by then the 2710 customers, and so that's I was trying to kind of get away the chaff of the other part of it and mostly just focus on the base rate's goal, which was to cover the administrative, distribution, all the other costs, basically.
But see, they didn't even start at 54, we all started at 55, so they increased it by another $1 even on our bills to begin with, so.
And they were wrong with the customer count.
Well, whatever.
So the other thing,
Again, if you take $54.03 times 10%, you add $5, you know, I mean, or you add $1. I mean, again, I wasn't there, so I give them a lot of credit for doing what they could do with the material that they had.
right, I'm just basing it off of what your comments and what I'm reading here, that was just a little off for me. The other thing is if we look down in the bottom right where it's talking about on page 10 still, future annual expenses. So it does say that the rate of 0.025 is the current exact cost, and I'm not sure the exact cost of what, if they're just referring to that's the WIN Act, I guess. But it also says down here, pond repair, pipeline replacement, 400 new meters. So they did try to put in there some expenses for pipeline replacement. And I kind of thought I heard you say that wasn't in there either. So I just wanted to point out that was there.
Yeah, well, again.
So I would like you to go over for us what the lawyer Rachel said. If you can tell us what she said in regards to what we had to follow for the water increase. Do you have her comments handy?
Can I just make one other comment on page 10? They included all the revenue from the filter loan fees and all the other fees, and again, trying to strip all that out, which was why I was focused on what the $55. Those are all the 1081 fees. It's probably in my stack here, but I can't. So, we had asked Rachel McBean, the lawyer for the district, who was also acknowledged and guided the district in this document, is that we do have to follow basically that section 6, and I covered it related to just sort of reading what was in page 31 of the CSDA.
So can we go to appendix 6 then, people? It's on page 57 of that rate rationale package. So here's what throws me off. This talks about a normal water year usage rate formula. All it has is Bureau Water, M&I, Ag, and just the treatment costs and labor treatment standby costs. And that's it. And then if you read off to the side, normal year water rates will vary based on the price of the various water categories sold to the district from the Bureau of Reclamation and the cost of treatment chemicals necessary to meet state health and safety standards. So it says this formula is for illustrative purposes, but this is what's in our packet for a normal water year usage. When you go back further and you look at the drought formula, which is, I don't see a page number on it, but it's a few pages back beyond 57, it's beyond 57, I think. But then is where you all of a sudden you've got utility costs and delivery costs and all of this labor, other things, and O&M put in here. And it just is, they did that for, it appears that it was done for drought only. And I don't think that if you base what Rachel said is that we have to abide by appendix 6. And she said based upon the formula that was in appendix 6. And that formula is a 1.9 yearly. So how can we add more to that if we are supposed to abide by appendix 6? I am all about legal. I'm all about rules. I'm a rule follower most of the time. So that's a hard pill to swallow if I'm looking at just this for the water rate, and then I look at what was done with the drought rate. Not only that, this rate of 37 cents, and here it's 40, was based on what, $83 an acre foot of water? And what is our current contract now? 50 bucks or 51, 52? So I have a hard time when I look at this and that to reconcile that in my head. If we're needing more money, that's the other thing is to me, you're looking at expenses, total expenses, everything from what I read in the packet is based on your base fee. That should all be included in there. And now we started tacking it onto the water rate. And that's one of the problems I have, is that why are we tacking it onto water when it looks like we already put it into the base rate? So that's one problem I have. And then if we go to the other one, which is this booklet called Proposition 218 for Special Districts, there's some in the back. And if you go to that multi-rate increase, and it was page, this one doesn't show, 30 and 31. So you highlighted some of that, but it says adopting an increase to a property-related fee or charge may adopt a schedule of fees or charges authorizing automatic adjustments that pass through increases in wholesale charges for water or adjustments for inflation if the schedule complies with all of the following. The schedule or fees or charges for a property-related service may not exceed 5 years, and that's why it was 5 years. So the schedule of fees or charges may include a schedule of adjustments, including a clearly defined formula. And if I look at that, that's page 10, that's the formula. And so how can we change that? So for a clearly defined formula for adjusting for inflation, that's the 1.9. And then the property-related fee or charge is adjusted for inflation does not exceed the cost of providing the service. If the agency purchased wholesale water and I'm getting rid of the sewage stuff, from a public agency, the schedule of fees may provide for automatic adjustments that pass through any increases or decrease in the wholesale water charges. We have to meet all of these. It says complies with all of the following. So if that says the pass-through for automatic adjustments for any increases or decrease in the wholesale water, we've had a decrease. So if we can't comply, can we have this discussion? Yes, we can have the discussion. But just reading that right there tells me that we cannot increase water rate, the water cost. Based upon, it's not an increase. It's a decrease, but why are we increasing? So I think those were the things. I'm sorry, I'm upset. This bothers me just because I don't like, I'm just unhappy. I'll leave it at that.
Well, just a couple quick comments. First of all, the rate schedule has a defined calculation. It also has a defined escalator for the base rate at 1.9%. As per, and probably one of the mistakes the Citizens Advisory Committee did is they put any estimated usage rate in that chart when they first approved it. They should have just put TBA. And now they put a 1 cent increase for the 5 years. So, the Prop 218 notice, the Prop 218 approval of the rate structure included a calculation for the usage rate. And though it was not as clear as I think it should be, it does have the cost of purchased water, McConnell, City of Reading, or potentially the cost of pumping it out of your well. But obviously the bureau costs, plus your treatment, plus a 4.1% for reserves. And then they said treatment is materials and labor. So, as far as our legal counsel is concerned, that is the calculation. And I think part of what you'll see in my memo for the next item, which is the water usage rate calculation, is the board has approved multiple usage rates using the formula that has all of those costs listed out. Chlorine, or chemicals, O&M, utilities, all the rest. If that is not clear enough, then you need to find 3 votes to tell me what you want in those costs. That's where, what I'm saying is, I understand the displeasure of whether or not this is legal or not, but I would caution you to be going down the legal route. This is time to make sort of a consensus decision to give us direction of what we're having there. All we've done is put in there what we think it means.
But see that study, and then I'll shut up and let somebody else. That in the study, it has a drought water rate formula that has all of that things in there. The normal water year rate formula, Appendix 6, does not. And what we have done is we have taken that drought water rate formula in the past 2 years and manipulated that to come up with a water rate, and we never got back down to the 37 cents that originally, we never even saw that, because within a month we had the rates to a drought thing. So I kind of think what happened in error is that we took that drought water rate and then made it become a regular rate usage formula that wasn't in compliance with our rate rationale. It's completely opposite of what a normal water year usage rate formula. Okay.
Well, I would disagree that that it's not in compliance with the rate rationale. I will just say though that if the majority of the board can come to some consensus on what should make up on this page 6, treatment materials and labor standby, and that's what we'll put in there, right? I'm gonna assert that by having the chart on the bottom left include utilities, chemicals, and O&M is part of materials. If you don't think it is, tell me. But I'm also telling you, you're marching down the same road that the board 5 to 15 years ago did, that got them to the point in 2020 to have to triple your water rate.
Okay, so that was very offensive, and don't go there, because that was exceptionally offensive to even say what that board did in the past. So I understand what their thought process was, or their blinders that they put on there. And in 2019, when I saw when we all came together and said we don't want, in June 2019, that was the first time they came together for a rate rationale. They had all their numbers all screwed up, and so they pulled back. But on that rate rationale, they had a 38-cent backwater fee.
Right.
And lo and behold, because they pulled it all back, they couldn't put that on there. Guess what? It miraculously appeared on all of our bills. Nobody approved it, and it went on that way. So to tell us, that's so upsets me, because I do not want to operate like that last board, and I am going to be very persnickety about everything, and that was very offensive to me.
Well, I apologize. I did not mean it to be offensive, because I think what the board and the district has done up to now, by breaking out the components of those materials, was to be more open about what it is that makes up those costs to operate the treatment plant.
But if you look on page 8, the base rate includes the operations, repairs, reserves, and all other costs related to the production, treatment, and distribution of water. That's it in a nutshell. It includes everything. The water usage. It says it covers the cost of water plus treatment and labor expenses in getting the water to the tank at the filter plant. That's it.
But if we go back to page 7, under summary of base rate, water usage rate, and other fees, it does talk about, for the water rate, including operations, repairs, reserves, and all other costs related to the production, treatment, and whatnot. So, they've been, you in one way, you're right. You know, they've made some mistakes. And even in the rationale, though, they do cover the treatment, the repairs, whatnot, even though it doesn't show up in the ordinance or the chart on the back page here. So I understand where you're coming from, but in the rationale, they do try to, their intent was to address those issues. And I think some mistakes were made.
An underwater usage rate on page 8, yes. The base rate is all about what it takes to get a gallon of water to your meter. The usage rate, though, includes the charge per unit of water that covers the cost of water, charged from the bureau, plus treatment and labor expenses in getting the water to the tank. That's why labor and materials is part of Appendix 6.
Right, and even, I'm sorry if I can, even under the Prop 218 special districts for water rates, it talks about the various components that can be in there, which include construction or even reconstruction, meaning repairs to your permanent infrastructure.
Where is that?
I looked it up under analysis.
Right, but that wasn't in there before, so we can't go in and put it in now.
But it does comply with,
I kind of think these additional costs that you're alluding to have to go into the base rate based upon this. So if that means we've got to come out with another Prop 218, I don't think we're being good stewards by putting it on the water usage. It's not even giving us very much money, right? Or
Right. So I think, again, that goes back to why you'll see in my document, that for cover 6B, that's where you gotta tell me what it is that you think should be part of those labor materials. You're right. In other words, if it should be that whatever it is that you tell me it's gotta be, then we'll calculate what the rate is, and all other expenses will be covered by the base rate.
Yeah.
To answer
And
your
so,
question.
and I think that's prudent way to go forward. And what we will do then, because we need another year of doing whatever we're gonna do, whatever we decide goes in. We need another year of doing that, because that's gonna be your input as we go through another Prop 218 process. I would assert that the next Prop 218 process needs to be more clear about what that is, and what that formula is, what's included in that.
Right.
I read this to say, you know, the labor for the treatment and all the rest of that stuff all year round. I mean, it's in the usage rate, but when we go through another Prop 218, I'm gonna recommend a lot of that labor goes to the base rate. It's not attributed here to that. But that's why I think those vagaries, a majority of you need to tell me, and then we can put that together and we'll break it to you on the 17th.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm basing my comments on a guide to Proposition 218, a legal analysis. It was on page 12, and it reads as follows. This is under free of charge.
Hang on.
Not a problem.
Which document?
Yeah.
Let me see, this is page 12. Let's scan up to the top.
This one.
That one? I got that one somewhere. Okay, page.
Proposition 218 guide for
What
special
I printed
districts.
up yesterday.
Okay.
On page 12, let's get
Yeah.
back down there.
All right, I printed mine at home, it doesn't have page numbers.
Okay, they're real small at the bottom.
No,
Fees and charges.
Annual, its assessment fees and charges continue. Partway down, free of charge means any levy other than an ad valorem, whatever tax. So we go down to the next paragraph. Maintenance and operation expenses means the cost of rent, repair, replacement, rehabilitation, fuel, power, electrical current, care, supervision necessary to properly operate and maintain a permanent public improvement. And that's what we have with the filtration plant, is a permanent public improvement, okay? That we are fiduciarily responsible to maintain in a property.
That's just a term.
Okay,
Okay.
it's a definition of the terms for what it's supposed to be.
But how
Okay.
is that not saying that that doesn't belong with the base rate?
No, because it's a fee or a rate, okay, a charge, which is what the water rate is,
No, it's
okay?
calculated as maintenance and operation expense, right?
Correct, for the water.
Yeah, but I would expect it to be a fee such as the other fees that we have, the WINAC fee, the state loan fee,
But it's on the water rate chart under O&M. But we also have a blank one that says repairs and a blank one for testing. I mean, they're there, but there's no monies associated with it at this time. So
So,
they're on the rate chart that the board approved.
so what you're reading, Scott, is just definitions. So
Correct.
it is
An
just,
explanation.
right, that's all it is.
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about a fee, it talks about expenses. And so expenses are all part of the base rate.
No, because this comes under the heading of assessments, fees, and charges. Okay, so we're dealing with assessments, fees, and charges. We know we're not dealing with assessments because we don't have assessments.
It
for
says,
our-
it
for
says,
property
it
taxes.
says it's a definition. These,
Okay.
those definitions are as follows.
Right,
So all it
So-
is explaining what maintenance and operation expenses are. Not saying it's for the water, not saying it's for the base rate, it's saying it's a maintenance and operation expense. And if it's an expense, our rate rationale says all of those belong in the base rate. So, my interpretation.
Okay,
Go ahead.
your
All right,
interpretation.
I'm done.
Mine
You guys-
leans towards the fact that there are two components to the fees. The base rate, where yes, some of these things belong in the base rate, but also the water rate has to have some of those components. For maintaining the structure, we've already got, what is it, track 6 down. If we lose another one, what happens, Bill? If we lose another track, what happens?
Filter?
Yeah, train, whatever.
This reduces the capacity of the treatment plant.
Okay, well, reduce it below the needs of both us and Centerville?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that's my concern. Do we have a responsibility to address these issues? Yes, unfortunately, in past years, the water treatment plant did not receive the O&M it needed to do the maintenance, even the annual maintenance, unfortunately.
But we can't make those changes now without a Prop 218.
Except under water rates, we can.
No, you
because
can't.
it's
That's
under O&M.
No,
We currently have an O&M component in
but
our water
there's
rates.
never been any money in it.
Oh, yeah, we're collecting $32 an acre.
And
foot right now.
O&M is operation and maintenance. It doesn't say replace the filters, you know,
Okay, so how do we maintain train 6?
have another Prop 218 or tighten our belt someplace else and, come up with the money, just like we came up with the money for paying off the WIN Act.
Would you care to address that, please, our general manager? Where the monies came from and what we had to do to pay it off because it was a short-term obligation?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I became aware last year that the district hadn't fulfilled its obligation to pay off the WIN Act, which put in jeopardy our 15,300 acre feet a year contract, and we weren't able to get a loan, we basically deferred other expenses. Like, remember, we decided not to purchase a vehicle, we decided not to do a couple of those kind of things, and we took some money out of our general fund to pay it off. And so, yes, that money is available to catch up on some of that in the coming budget year. We'll have that conversation as part of our upcoming budget creation. I think just real quick on a clarification there. The definition is very true. Your challenge is, your rate rationale says that the treatment is the variable component of the rate structure is based on water consumption. The variable use fee is the cost of purchasing the water and the cost of treatment. That's vague. If the rate rationale, and hopefully the future rate rationales will be more specific, to include some of these things in the definition, and you can actually have some components of that. And I think that's part of what we were talking about before is, over the last number of years, this is the way the district has adopted its rate, but it hasn't been clear, direction from the board, what you think that labor and materials should include. And that's what I think is part of what I'm asking you in your second item here, is give us some direction. To think, as I mentioned before, it doesn't even cover water loss, so we're just gonna have to eat it until we do our next one. But some direction on how to deal with that is that too.
And when you add a fee for water loss, it does say in one of these documents that you have to be very, very specific on the cost of that. Carrie, I know Dennis wanted to make a comment, but I don't know about the rest of the board.
I'm sorry.
I still have. Well, you know, if you wanna go to public, that's your call.
What do you,
I just wanna reiterate a few things. Under the summary for the base rate, water usage rate and whatnot, it says these costs, so for each of these things, include operations, repairs, reserves, and all other costs related to the production, treatment, distribution of bottled water.
Right.
So to me, that says each of these categories has to include these components. So
Right, that's not a replacement of the filter.
Where are you?
He's right here.
Page 7.
It says the
Page
base
7.
rate. It says the base rate.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think there's a problem with the base rate. What we're discussing is the water rate and
Usage rate.
Summary of base rate, water rate, and other
Right.
fees, okay?
what you
These
read.
costs.
What you read does not have anything to do with replacement.
No, it's a repair.
It's not a repair.
Terry, if you jump, this is where it gets convoluted. If you jump down to the footnote of that section, the very last sentence reads, so we'll actually look at the last two. The formula and illustrated scenario of these calculations using an estimate of future BOR water rates is included in Appendix 6. Changes to the usage rate for HCF, will be based on additional costs incurred by the district and will be changed with a 30-day notice. That says usage rate. So,
Yeah.
it says both.
But the
But it's
additional.
not, it doesn't include replacement. Operations and maintenance does not include replacing major components.
Are we replacing?
I will agree with
or
that's capital
repairing
improvement.
Pardon?
It falls into, or should fall into capital improvement.
It should.
Right.
And that's where our problem is lying, is we can't put capital improvements into the water usage rate at this time. We need to do a new Prop 218, which is what, next year?
No, 2 years.
Probably will start next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what the CAC was trying to do here with that last sentence, based on additional costs incurred by the district, was that every year, the B of R sends us a different rate calculation. Sometimes it's, $83 an acre foot, or $50 an acre foot, and so you have to, that's what I infer with the additional cost. So, yeah, you could, maybe it's labor too, because there was, or the treatment chemicals.
Right.
So, that was.
It reads as additional cost.
Right.
Yeah, above it prefaces the Bureau, but
Yeah.
it reads how it reads, which doesn't make things any clearer.
That's why we're having a workshop. That's why getting some consensus on what that includes means we can put our rates together and you guys can move on. I think you did have somebody from
Okay.
Dennis.
Straighten us up.
I'm just about scared to get up there.
Just stay out here with us.
I think part of the problem is such a broad topic and, there's 80 pages to look at and review. Some say this, that. So it gets complicated and exactly, just kind of some general statements. To me, it doesn't make a difference where you put that cost. The O&M for the treatment or whatever, to me, it doesn't make a difference. If you take it out of the base rate and put it on the water rate, then you need to lower the base rate and raise the other. So I see that doesn't change anything, really. But I do see the inflation and costs are going up, and probably a rate schedule isn't going to keep up with the cost. I understand that, I think at some time the cost will jump up, and what way that you do that, that's up to the board. I do think cost has got to come up with everything going on. But one McConnell, probably we won't be buying, McConnell water this year. So there'll be a small savings there, probably, 2 cents a unit. I think savings, on that. So, there would be a savings there, but I think, that you're right that, you might need to do, well, I'm not gonna say it, because I don't wanna take sides. When we did the cost analysis, generally, we didn't include, pipeline replacement. There was one small grant Skip was working on, and I think, and we changed it several times. And I'm not sure exactly which one got adopted, I left the advisory committee. They kept just jacking it up and up and up, and finally said, I'm out. So I stepped out and you, jumped in. And so I wasn't positive what was said right at the end there, as far as, if that grant, that there was gonna, replace, meters, and then there's one chunk of pipe wires.
That's what the $1 was for. That's what he put,
Oh, yeah,
that's what he put that $1 in for.
that was a separate fee.
Right.
So that was in there, but that's all, that there was nothing else in there.
Right.
So I do think if we do a big, huge, a pipeline and try to do it ourselves, yeah, you'd have to do you'd start over with a new 218. But, currently, I'm not gonna say if we raise it 5 cents or 7 cents or a dime, whether we need a prep 218, and then something else, I just got started on this, like 2 days ago, but the fire safe council called and I had to do stuff for them. So I haven't done really a prep 218 analysis. Is there something that you want to find out from me? I don't know, or ask about a question.
Yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate all the information that you sent me. So I do think, I made the comment that there was not anything in here related to capital improvements.
Yeah.
You've confirmed that based on both the goal of the document.
It was.
Yeah, that what the goal was to get us on an annual fiscal thing. And yes, there was the dollar fee, that's not part of the base rate and the usage fee.
That was separate.
But that was separate, and that was similar to the other fees that were paying off other capital improvements. So that, I think, is good, and you kind of confirmed that in an email that you sent me, so I just wanted to mention that, and I want to thank you for that. Because as I said to the board, I think part of the reason why we need to come up with, doesn't necessarily have to be a certified capital improvement plan, but some identification of a capital improvement plan so that we know what we put into the next rate study. And we could make it as a fee, we could make it as a, but it also needs to be clear, right? So back to the replacement thing that the chair is talking about, it's not clear what that is for unless you have it in your Prop 218. So yes, maintenance, all the rest of that stuff is part of your normal daily operation.
Yeah. I do think our source for the treatment plant costs and labor and materials, our source would bill, and appraisals. And, what I'm trying to say, our first source was Bill, and the drought rate was Bill. And so I think probably those costs were in, it doesn't state it. It just lumped it in. I think it was in there, but
I think it is, as you were talking, page 13 of the rate rationale, and it talks about that 10% actually, and so here I'm saying we've got plenty of money because we've got that extra 10% for expenses, but they say in there that it was for reserves, and one of them was for operating, and $280,000 is what they were calculating to replenish reserves and provide funds for capital improvement projects.
yeah, and that come from the board. I think when we first sat down and started, that 10% came from Sarah Beer. And she just said, you know, the budget was all screwed up and the counting was all screwed up. So she took the income from several years and kind of took an average and then stuck on the 10% just for a buffer. But then later, I think the board said, okay, we'll use that for reserves. And at some point, it got stuck in there.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, I guess what I was looking for, Dennis, was just your thought process on some of these things, like, what was the base rate? What was the water rate supposed to be, you know, if you knew?
Yeah, and we just flip-flopped all over, and at one time there was like, additional rate. Like, you could choose A or B, whatever you
Yeah,
wanted,
yeah.
and then there'd be C. And then, I think the lawyer said, no, you don't want that or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we scrapped that one and started over with something else. So it got changed several times, about every time we met. And then Senator come up with his formula. The formula that's in there, the rate, chart there, I wrote that. But then, you know, we could change this up or down, change this up or down, stick this in, so it got changed over the time.
And, you know, just one other quick thing, because part of the challenges is that there's not consistency even in its own document, right?
Mm-hmm.
What every property owner received on page 20 and 21, if you go to the new water rates, it says water rates will be adjusted over a 5-year period based on the bureau rate schedule and the cost of chemicals and labor. So they didn't even use the term materials. They used chemicals and labor. So that's,
Yeah, my personal thoughts were on that, was I didn't like, I wanted to keep it more general instead of really specifying each tiny little thing, because then you're locked into it and you can't change it. If you need to change it, you can't, you know. And so I mean, he did a good job of writing it, and that was, who wrote that?
Murray?
Yes, yeah, Murray wrote that himself. And I didn't really like it because just, you know, I deal with the state all the time, and you don't want to pin yourself down so much as that did. Because it pins you down, and then you, like right now we have this problem, we can't change it, you know, or at least some of us think we.
I have a comment.
that's the kind of,
Okay, let her rip.
Oh,
Oh, serious.
I'm coming to the podium.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joanne Bloomquist. This district has come so far in the last 3 years. We are now pretty solvent, so I'm very proud that we've done this. Getting a Prop 218 passed right now would be impossible. It would not happen, I can tell you that. I've been watching social media and people are calling us greedy and some other things. It's mostly people that don't understand what the process is of getting us back to stability. I understand where Bev's coming from, the legal parts of the document, but I also think there is some wiggle room. And I think we need to use that wiggle room to keep us moving ahead financially. Our 1.9% is no way gonna keep up with inflation. I mean, we all know that in our personal lives, that things are just skyrocketing. So if we can find another way to come up with a little bit of money, and I personally don't think people are going to complain about a 2 or 3% increase in their water usage. I think they'd be more willing to do that than see their base rate go up. So that's my feeling.
Yeah, so do I second that. I don't think you wanna bump the base rate up.
We can't bump the base rate up without a Prop 218.
Well,
So the only thing we're dealing with right now is the water use rate.
yeah.
And from what I understand, is we're trying to put other than maintenance and operation into that water rate, and that's not legal.
Well,
So,
that's not necessarily true. We've had a couple people say that there's wiggle room there.
there's
So
wiggle room, but,
unless someone actually sues you, and then they would have to prove that the wiggle room wasn't true.
and I'm not gonna take a chance on getting sued.
I don't know, Terry,
So-
I hate to see us go backwards.
But some of it is repair. I mean, what he needs is a fix for the treatment plant. That's repair, it's not rebuilding.
And sometimes repairs have to be maintenance. you know,
So,
follow
yeah,
up,
it's
keep going.
deferred maintenance at
Yeah,
that
it's
point,
been
right?
deferred too long.
Yeah.
I have some comments if I can.
Yeah.
If we go to the rate rational, page 21, the chart there, where it has the ag, domestic, whatnot, you have usage rates year 1, 2 through 5. You'll also know it's HCF plus TBD to be determined, and there's an increase every year on that usage rate, if you look at that chart. Okay, so they did anticipate having to bump the usage rate up a little bit. Okay, now taking a look at the current chart, we do have $32 per acre foot included in the usage rate for O&M. That's currently what, the district is charging and collecting, okay? And if we go with the full 2,265 acre feet of water that went through the water treatment plant in the last water year and collected on every drop, we would have collected $72,500. But at Paul's suggestion of 10% loss, then the actual collection would be more like $65,000. And we know from him reporting that the actual O&M for the treatment plant was $95,000. What I'm suggesting is we take their suggestion of a small increase and try to close that gap by going 2, 3. Understand, this is per HCF. So most of the customers in the community are gonna be paying 30, 50 cents a month more at most. I, on the other hand, will pay between $15 and $21 more a month because I'm a high water user. And I'm willing to pay that extra to maintain and ensure that all the customers get that water they need.
I feel the same, we're big water users too, and I have no problem. I wanna be able to open up my tap and have water come out. I don't wanna find out that the second train went down and now we have no water.
So a couple of things on that page 21, if you look at the new rates, in the middle there, it does say water rates will also be adjusted over a 5-year period based on the Bureau of Reclamation water rate schedule and the cost of chemicals and labor to treat the water during that current year. And then the last 2 sentences on that paragraph, it says, when the board enacts this provision, the water usage rate will increase to cover additional expenses incurred by the district to provide water from our wells and other sources. So that was to safeguard us against increased B of R water, not for additional expenses. I mean, that's just the way I read it.
I understand where you're coming from.
And I agree, Joanne, we need to do something. I just don't think, when I kind of read this, I just don't think it's appropriate here to just start tacking on a few cents here and there.
And I appreciate that as a customer, except I don't want us to start going the other direction. I want to see us stay fiscally sound, and like I said, I want to be able to open my faucet and have nice, clean water come through it. So I don't mind paying another $15 or $20 a month. Most people are gonna pay 50 cents a month. But $2.18 and increasing their base rate, they're gonna scream about that.
Well, we can't increase.
Well, you could redo $2.18 right now.
Right, we could, but we're not wanting to do
So you
that.
need to find another way.
Right.
And I'm
Another
saying, use the
legal way.
use the
Yeah.
wiggle room.
But we do have an O&M line item on our water usage rate.
No, we don't.
Under the chart we do that we use and we publish.
Under the drought rate, that was, if you look at your rate rationale, there's no O&M under the water rate on appendix 6. That's the problem I
We
have.
have published and used a water rate change every year, including the last year. Correct, Paul? Okay, so
But-
that was not a drought rate because we declared the drought over,
That's
or a stage 2.
Right.
So that's the document that the board approved last year.
Was there any money in it, though? There was never any money in O&M, so.
Was there O&M money in that one?
Yeah.
How much? It should be down near the bottom of that
But
rate chart.
according to Rachel, we could only do it if it was in appendix 6.
Right.
And so, that's what I'm saying, this water rate that we came up with last year and had all of these additional utilities, were they already accounted for in the base rate? And we've just tacked them on again and charging people 51 cents, and maybe it was supposed to be 45 cents if you take off all of those other things. I don't know.
Using appendix 6, what, kind of rate would we be looking at? What kind of, money would Paul or Bill have to have for, just on that?
Yeah, so, let's just shift to 6B, which is the water usage rate calculation, right? Because that's really what we're focused on.
Right.
Basically, the whole reason for number 1 was for me to report to you that the base rate and combination of the fees and everything else has done what the Citizens Advisory Committee wanted to do. They put us on a year financial basis. Like I told you before, we turned into the gray, well, that's good. All right, so the real issue, I think, comes right down to this thing, which is some wanted it vague, labor and materials, and we need to define it, okay? So just wanted to say a couple of things as it relates to that.
When you talk about 6B, Paul, can you please tell me what you're referring to?
6B, which is
On the agenda.
on our agenda, which is
Oh.
the water usage rate calculation.
Okay.
And it's the second half of my little memo here, but it's basically gonna get to that point, which is that, well, first of all, I wanted to mention, because the community should know, that you might recall last time our bureau allocation was 100% historic M&I, 75% irrigation. They just announced, I haven't received the letter yet, that they're going to do 100% irrigation. So we're gonna be at an unallocated year, just like last year. Yay. So, the current 52 and 51 cent rate includes in the chart, and it's in your background, on the bottom there, it includes $26 per acre foot of O&M space. And that was budgeted in our budget to be, because we thought our O&M costs would be about $80,000. It turned out our O&M costs are probably gonna be more like $95,000. So the other thing on that chart is we broke out the materials.
I'm having a tough time finding it, where you are.
It's in your back pocket, this guy right there.
Thank you.
You bet. So, bottom left again, this is where, Bill had, instead of the vagaries of materials, we're gonna include the chlorine, the pack and polymer, those are for your water quality and to get the clouding out of it. Utilities, labor and standby, and O&M. So to answer the specific question is, in the current rate, the 52 cents, 51 cents, we have 6 cents of that is O&M. If you do not think that that should be part of the labor and materials, you need to tell me, and we'll make an adjustment. If you think it should be, then we'll put it in. Utilities is 6 cents per unit. Okay? Now, I don't know, are utilities part of treatment? Nope. Okay, well, if the board feels that utilities should not be part of.
Yes, it is.
How can it not be?
Yeah, how can I not be?
You can't run electricity with it, can't run them in.
Can't run anything.
Can't run the
What
pumps
does your
without-
rate rationale tell you though? See, that's the problem.
Well, it tells you the cost of treatment.
Right.
Labor
Cost of what?
and materials. So, we have, the district has, since 2021, has included utilities as a cost of treatment. We are also including chlorine in the pack and polymer, and again, our expert Bill can explain to you, but we thought, and I still think it's good, to have that broken out, so you kind of know what that is. And then the labor is really just all the costs of the treatment division, which we estimate at about $240,000 a year. You divide that by the current year, at the time, 3,000 acre feet, that's where you get your $85 an acre. So that's what it is, and what we need to know is what you, the board, feel should be in this chart. And what is it that would, in this chart, complies with 96?
So basically the question is, what is the cost of treatment? What should be the components? Is repairing or buying anthracite for one of the trains because it's struggling and we have to replace the anthracite? Is that part of O&M maintenance?
Yes.
I agree. Okay. So if that's part of it, then electricity and chemicals and computer upgrades or,
No,
no?
not computer upgrades.
But what if the program they're running isn't sufficient for monitoring the treatment plant?
Then they need to budget it in the regular budget.
Okay, so you wanna break that one out?
No, see, I disagree.
And we
I think that's part of your maintenance and facilities, filtration.
Bill's chomping at the bits back here.
Tell him, Bill.
I really just need to stand up, but I'll walk to the foot.
Oh,
My leg's killing me.
you look like you just really had something to,
Well, I just want to clarify a few things that have been said. It may or may not make a difference, but I'm here, why not? So as I read the rate rationale that was drafted in July of 21. By the way, I was not the manager then, but backing up, when the CAC was formed, I just listened. I was just an operator, I was just curious the direction the district was going. So I was just listening in. So I wasn't the manager. That may have been mentioned. It had nothing to do with the way it was drafted or created. I did become the manager there towards the end, and I did sit in some meetings with Rachel, but at that time it was done. All the discussion was finished. There really was nothing for me to contribute. But however, I do remember, and there should be minutes and recordings, a lot of those meetings with everyone, pretty much everyone in the room, minus Paul. I do remember that the base rate did not include treatment plant costs. Certainly, the numbers that were used back then did not include our current needs, which have increased. Furthermore, that rate rationale was developed using 2018 and 2019 financials, which were super outdated, even in 2021. And it may have, looking back, a lot of things should have changed. Those numbers should have been revisited. And Paul is pretty, done a way better job explaining all this than I have. I'm just probably just touching up on a few things. O&M is just that. As Director Lincoln said, it's just operation and maintenance of the current equipment. However, we're using that to replace stuff as things fail, unforeseen. So not just anthracite, but air compressors, or actuators, or things that shouldn't have broke but do. Well, where does that come from? Well, we don't have an unforeseen line item. We have O&M. That's all I have to work with. So I get a number, and I got to make it work. And we are down a filter, and it's looking like close to $300,000 to fix. But that's just one of 8. And there's more on the way. So just some things to keep in mind. Back to the rate rationale. Treatment is mentioned several times in the usage rate and in the base rate, so it is kind of confusing. I guess it's however you want to read it, but I'm not sure what the board is going to want to lower the rate to. But we did budget to July this fiscal year for a certain number, so if it's less, there's going to be a deficit. And you don't need your operator to tell you that. Oh, by the way, I'm chief operator of the district. Chemicals included in treatment, but not the equipment to feed the chemicals. I just heard that electricity could be used, but not the equipment. So I don't know. The costs are real. And I'm glad we're doing a tour, because Joanne's going to see firsthand some of the challenges we have. So, I'm going to end it with a couple things. One of them is we have to make hard decisions. Sometimes the easy decision and the right decision are not the same thing. Two, I think Paul did a great job of it, just kind of explaining everything at the plant and, including the cost of treatment or, our current costs. They're just going to go up, and they have been. And we have seen some stabilization, but 10 or 20% is nothing. I mean, it's more like 100% on some things. Anthracite's one of them, since that was mentioned. I just looked back in 2018, and we're paying almost double. So, anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
And if you have any questions, I'll take them anytime.
Thanks.
So taking a look at the rate rationale with the $26, I thought it was 32. That means if we collected everything, we only collected 59,000 of the 95 we need for the O&M. Just the O&M, not the other aspects of the water treatment. So we've got a deficit there of 36,000.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. This is not for a decision, okay? The numbers are for a decision. What I think what we want to hear This is just to show you what the numbers were for our current rate and what made up that rate. So what we need to hear is O&M part of your usage costs? Yes, okay, good. We're gonna go back and we're gonna take and look at it. You can see we had $95,000 of costs probably this year. That's what we're gonna probably put in there. We can take out the extra 20,000 for the replacement of train 3, right? That's what I'm hearing. Don't wanna see that. We wanna see the O&M cost and project.
Right, we need to do some budget work and come up with a place, you know, where we can trim down something else to come up with that 20,000.
That's exactly right. That's what we're gonna do. That's
Right.
why we need to hear it. What do you want us to make it up? If we're not gonna get it there, then we gotta do it elsewhere, right?
Can we go through item by item under the O&M and see where the board feels and maybe just start approving or not each of those items under O&M?
I guess before we do that, real quick, chlorine. Is that okay to be part of the user agreement?
That's treatment.
It is treatment material. PAC, polymer, that's also treatment materials. Utilities are needed to deliver those. So the labor and standby, we have to go back and make sure we got that covered. So, but now we can get to that list, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing that, you know, we don't want major repairs. We didn't do that in Prop 218. We still gotta come up with a capital improvement plan for our future.
So then
We'll absorb the testing costs. That'll be other places. But in the O&M list, which is what you have at the last page of this document, which is what Bill had put together as part of that, it includes $20,000 to start the work to make Train 6 usable. Okay, great, we'll take that out. But there's filter inspections, media additions, TU5 maintenance.
Well, we don't wanna take it out. We wanna find that money someplace else.
I think we have a spot we can find that.
So it's not
Can't
that
that
we.
be part of that dollar? I'm sorry.
That's something for you to
My
finance
apologies,
committee to
go ahead.
work on, right? Right, because that's, yes, I agree, we're gonna.
Well, I just don't want you to think that because I would expect that hopefully we can find a way that within a year's time, we've got that train fixed. That's my goal.
If it lasts that long.
Well,
No, it's already done.
To clear that up, that filter's offline, it can't run, it fails immediately. Certainly impacts water quality. Public safety.
again, as we start in the finance, just so the board knows and everybody else, right? The board's gonna have a workshop on the budget in May, at our May meeting, just like it did last year. The finance committee and I will meet, before that to put together some components. So if we're not gonna include this major repair in the rate, then we're gonna, the finance committee and I will work on ways to find it elsewhere. Same thing with the computers, same thing, that's clear. But I think most of the rest of this stuff is O&M, but I mean, if you've got any questions about it, Bill's here to answer.
I have a question. Why aren't we keeping all the filtration plant things that happen, like the repair of the trains? Why isn't that in a separate budget? And then the rest of the operation of the district in another budget? Because it seems to me that that operation there is totally different than the administrative part that we're doing here. Plus, we're sharing some of that cost with, Centerville.
I believe in the past, Joanne, that it was all combined, and Paul has been pulling it apart and
So
trying to.
you want it different, you would prefer it not be the filtration plant operation be one budget and then the other part of the operation of the district be in another budget? Because
Well,
then the issue of the train, repairing the train would be here and not over trying to figure out capital improvements that go with buying a truck, doing all that other stuff. Things that we could do without, that we can't do without.
So I think, as Director Fickus said, the board and the finance committee and yours truly really started that process. Rome wasn't built today, so we mean last year, and if you look at our budget online, you've got your different divisions all broken out. So the treatment division now has it all broken out, and it's now, as we shuffle around in the treatment division needs to have all of the expenses that are actually on the usage rate, all the other expenses that are generally covered by whether it's Centerville or our admin, costs that we put in. That's that's coming, right? But all the other admin stuff, all the other things, all the stuff that makes up the base rate is all separated.
Okay, and how about the repair of the train? They wanna pull that out and.
Well, yes, that'll be, and we started that with that little capital improvement section in the treatment division. So that will be where this will most likely arrive. But it's not gonna be part of the usage rate, it's gonna be part of the treatment division's improvements that'll be funded through the base rate, tax, whatever other funding.
And you couldn't justify increasing the usage rate to justify what goes on at the filtration plant?
Well, again, this is part of why we're having this workshop, because I think there's a strong argument that could be made that it can be part of that. Everything in that treatment division budget could be part of the usage rate. There's equally strong argument that only truly maintenance and only chemicals and only labor can be part of the usage rate.
Well, it kinda depends how you read it, is what I'm getting from
Yes.
this whole meeting tonight.
And
Is
the
some people
beauty
reading
of
it-
this meeting is we're gonna walk out of here with a consensus
I don't
on
know
what
about that.
that
We
is.
don't have all agree, but that's a consensus.
And guess what? You know what consensus means? It means nobody's gonna be super happy about it. We're all gonna be like, well, that's fine, let's work. And again, as your manager, who's got a little experience in the finance world and is trying to get us on the 21st century in that, this is valuable. This is super valuable, right? Because I gotta know what I'm working with so I can put together a good budget and communicate what we're doing. Again, we've acknowledged, I've said, the base rate, we are on a better financial footing than this district's been in years. And we just need to keep moving forward with that. Now, because I can tell you, now, just since Joanne mentioned it, please do not direct me to start the Prop 218 process today, right? I mean, we don't want to do that. Let's do it in its due time. And again, the community knows this, and we shared this a lot at our community meetings. The whole idea of revamping our budget process and tracking in a more granular way, in other words, we have more accounts, our expenses, and to put together a capital improvement plan or whatever else you want to call it, is all in preparation for the next Prop 218 process. Because as Bill said, from what I can read, they did a great job considering the data they had. The 2018, 2019 data was not that good. They did a really pretty good job considering it. Now, just one other thing though I will say. Last night, the city of Anderson did adopt a Prop 218. Last night. They had run their 45-day process and they adopted new rates. You know what their rate increase is for this year? 24%.
Is that base or water?
Water rate. And, well, there's a base increase too. Next year, it's 24%. And then the year after, it's 6%. And the year after, it's 6%. And the year after, it's 6%. And they've gone to basically $1.50 per unit. And then $1.98 per unit.
What is in their base rate though? That's, you know, you put in here all of their different rates, but I don't know what's in their base rate.
Well, again, all of them have different elements of it, so, you know, it's hard to know if you really compare like apples to oranges. It's more that their base rate includes pretty much everything as the cost of service requires, which is what it takes to get a gallon of water to somebody's meter.
Right.
So it's their admin, it's basically what ours does, admin and all the rest of that stuff. So the usage rate is also based, but see, they seem to be much more clear on all the different elements of what it was supposed to be. And they also, basically, most of them have a rate, and they play it out for 5 years. And, they escalate it, in this case, 24% per year. But again, they follow their Prop 218, it is their costs. And it was more illustrative, in my opinion, that costs are going up. You know, we just can't, I mean, Centerville, our neighbor, right, they use our treated water, and they're charging $1.33 per unit. And if you're in a different zone, they actually charge more on their base rate because of pump stations that they use. I would say, when we go forward, we should probably do that as well, you know, somebody needs a pump station. So again, it's illustrative, $1.88 a unit in Reading. Bella Vista is 81 cents, their base rate's $50. Shasta RCD is $2.64 per unit. So again, they've all done their 218. We don't want to do that right now.
But do we know how much they're charging per acre foot of Bureau water that they're getting? Because some of that's gonna be reflective of their charges.
Well, Centerville pays what we pay.
So basically, we're tied with our base rate, we can't touch it until we change 218.
Correct.
We have treatment plant that needs help and not in a year or two. The only wiggle room we have is in our usage rate. And so what it boils down to right now is what we should do with that. So, to be honest with you, I'm kind of like Joanne. I like to pay, I don't want to pay, you know.
Tell me it's legal. Tell me that if I look at Appendix 6 and it only shows what those water rates are and that we have to use that formula.
I think we can because of the rationale. It says that it's for maintenance, and that is maintenance. Maintenance is fixing it and getting it better. If you take your car into the automobile place, it's to fix what's wrong, and that's maintenance. We're fixing
Where does it
what's
say
wrong.
maintenance?
O&M.
Yeah.
Where?
Well, that's part of,
That's the cost of operating a treatment plant.
right,
Yes.
without repairing your stuff, you can't, get water out to the people.
Yeah, but see, I'm using this rationale as my Bible or as the gospel, and I just don't see it. And so therefore, I have to use this, not everything else. I have to use this in the interpretation, and you can. So I just want to be very clear with the lawyer, if we could, that we asked her, in her comments, she said that yes, we're legal so long as we follow the formula in Appendix 6. And I just want to make sure Appendix 6 says nothing. You know, that's the problem.
Okay, because it does say something. It says this, under water usage rate, this is the charge for a unit of water that covers the cost of water. The cost of water has to go through the filtration plant, so it is a cost of water.
It says a charge from the Bureau of Reclamation, clarifies it.
plus treatment, okay?
Okay,
It's treatment,
what's treatment?
The cost of getting it to us,
yeah, we have
getting it
to,
out of the
we
plant.
have
into the
to
distribution.
run it through the filter plant in order to have it delivered, that has to be a treatment. And the labor expenses, and getting water to the tank or to at the filtration plant.
I agree. We had started a process of going through what O&M should be. I kind of, if it's okay, I kind of want to finish that one aspect.
Yeah.
You know, so Bill made a valid point. If electricity is part of it, should the equipment that the electricity runs be part of it? So any actuators that he has to replace or repair, should that be part of the O&M? Because if they go down, the water doesn't go out. And it's not a major, like,
It's not a train.
not a train, correct. But because the filtration plant is coming up to its 30 year, meaning it's probably already fairly outdated, you know, where, I'm not gonna say rubber band and bubble gum to keep it together, but at times
It's
it's
rubber band.
probably like that. So we need to decide what should be in the water rate, and if O&M is, what are the components for that? So that we begin to clarify some things as a board. as a direction
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
district.
based on that, I mean, this list of items, sans the train 6 work, really, that's O&M. I mean, you got your actuators, you got your pond cleaning, you got your
Special, your
chemical
treatment.
injection and your chemical dilution and surface wash pumps, fittings,
Compressors,
media,
What is needed to get train 6 up for $20,000?
I think the $20,000 was just so we could, hire a consultant to develop a
Start.
scope of work and
yeah.
Right,
maybe look at, you know,
we'll fund it elsewhere.
yeah, that's, I wouldn't call that maintenance, so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I get it, that's what I'm-
Also, what is this surface washer pump?
surface wash, is, there are spray bars that are inside the filter, they're sitting just above the media. You can, you know, they spin around, they spin around during a backwash, and break up solids, during a backwash. So
What
the
is it?
surface wash pump is, detailed, it's been detailed for a couple of years at O&M, for replacement, because that is from 1976.
Is it kind of like an agitator, so to speak? Like if
I
you're
mean,
working on a
yeah,
washing
you could
machine?
call it an agitator.
And it's needed to purify the water to get it through the filter plant.
Yeah, without surface wash, you don't have clean filters.
So it's needed for
Yeah,
water.
So,
Providing clean.
so that number's there for pump replacement and a configuration change to go from horizontal to vertical, just because they don't offer that pump style anymore. It's kind of complicated.
see, that's, that was put on to be replaced years ago.
Yeah, so we took that and we did something else with it, because we thought, well, we could milk one more year out of it. Something else was screaming louder than a surface wash pump. And that's kind of what I have to do.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's why it's on there.
Yeah.
Chickens are coming horses.
What actuators and valves,
Where to start here? The actuators and valves that we want to replace are, they're 3-phase, 240 volt, actuators. We want to go to 120 volt newer actuator that, so the current ones, fail, so that they'll freeze open or freeze closed when they're called to do something. And so that's a call out, obviously. Valves are just because they leak and put water somewhere we don't want them to. So when they,
how many are we talking? You got $30,000 down there
yeah, they're $12,000 a piece,
for the actuators?
and the valve. So that we buy them as an assembly.
Oh,
We get a little bit better buy that way.
so how many actuators and valves are they?
For 30 grand, you're only gonna get about 3.
Okay, and how many do you need?
A lot. And these are just the items that we can repair in-house with me and one other person. Some of the actuator needs, some of the controls are from the 70s, and we can't do those, we're not set up to do them. So how many? There's a lot. So we just budgeted for 3, because you can't do 10, because that'll eat up your own end budget.
Yeah. But that should be on like a capital improvement
Yeah.
thing, so, okay.
So where are we on the O&M, line items?
Well, I mean, pretty much this list, and except for the last item, is part of your own.
So if that's the case, where is the O&M for this fiscal year gonna end up? Number-wise?
Right around 90 to 95,000.
Okay, and we're only gonna collect potentially, what, about 55 of that 95?
Most
And then
likely.
next year's projection, because our water rate's gonna carry us through the rest of this water year into the next fiscal year. So, is there any projections on potential increases on the needs for O&M for the treatment plant? And do we need to address that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think what you're hearing is, this is what our chief treatment plant operator thinks is O&M that's
The bare necessities right now.
that's the necessities for the coming year, and it's based on, and remember, we budgeted 80,000 for this current fiscal year. Our actuals are gonna come in more like 95,000. Again, the general district's budget is gonna cover the rest of that, right? I mean,
Correct.
So that's fine. And we're obviously complying, because we're not actually collecting more than what those costs are. So my guess is, this will be what we would propose as your O&M usage rate cost.
The 85.
95.
I think it's 95.
Yeah.
So what would that then, how would that adjust the acre foot charge for,
It doesn't, but it just.
what's calculated if we were to actually do the full 2,500 this year? Not even throwing in a water loss calculation.
So it should say.
Alright, so if you take out train 6, this is not 95, it's 97,575.
Okay.
I'm saying we probably just put in the budget, 95,000. If you divided that by 2,500, that's gonna equal $38 per acre foot. Which, if you divide that by 435.6,
It's what, about a 2 to 3 cent increase?
yeah, that comes out to be about 9 cents, 8.5 cents. So it's about 2 cents more than what we're currently charging.
Okay.
And
So what are we currently charging for O&M?
6 cents a unit.
How much less are we paying for, water this year than in the past?
Well, the Bureau's M&I plus restoration charge minus Trinity PUD last year, or current, or yeah, last year, was $57.18. This year, $52.72
Per acre foot.
per acre.
So what was last year?
$57.18.
And this year is 52.
$52.72. So it's about $5
Yeah.
less, okay? So last year, the irrigation, and that's cost of service, restoration, not including PUD. was 51.75. This year, it's about $6.50 less, it's 48.80. So the cost per unit last year was 13 cents per unit for M&I. This year, it's 12 cents, so 1 penny less. And last year for the Bureau of Irrigation, it was 12 cents. This year, it's 10 cents. So basically, penny and a half less per unit. Again, last year we had $26 an acre foot, or 6 cents per unit. But that was basically taking your 80,000 and dividing it by 3,000 acre feet to get you your $26 per acre foot. So if you actually divide it by our new 2,500, that's 32. So pretty close to what we would be proposing this year.
And the actual through the treatment plant last water year was 22.65.
Yeah, I mean, we got, that's okay, that's gonna happen.
So
Yeah.
what are we proposing to raise the water rate? And why?
Well, there were a couple of proposals on your March 20th.
Right.
One was to raise it to the M&I to 57 cents per unit, and the irrigation to 55 cents per unit. And that was primarily because the chlorine and other things, and even utilities, were kind of the same. We were projecting the same costs, but we were dividing it by 2,500 acre feet instead of the 3,000, so you're gonna have a little bit more per unit. And then really an O&M that was closer to the 95,000 of what we cost more. So obviously 5 cents more, basically.
Yes, sir.
Are you sure you want me to do that?
Yep.
You know, I'm reading Appendix 6. And, you know, from dealing with the state of California for all my career, you know, sometimes you don't want to try to find the negative, you gotta try to find wording for the positive. And it seems like on Appendix 6, it does say the reason to change water rate, blah, 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 or materials and labor. And it doesn't state what materials are. So I take a real general deal with that word. And parts are materials.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've pretty much agreed with that. The only thing we're taking off is that,
26.
what he was gonna have for,
Engineering to do.
engineering on that train 6, which isn't maintenance.
Yeah.
And they can find that someplace else. There's wiggle room in that budget, so.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, we agree with that statement there. Everything that, is on that list of bills is, I'm speaking for
I
everybody.
would even stick on additional, you have this, a friend of mine, he would go in front of the judge, and he bring dictionary, Webster's dictionary, and he look it up for that word, and he read the definition. And that pretty much solved solve the problem, because everybody, oh, no, that's not what it means. And he just brings Webster's and take care of it. So I would think that's a pretty broad word. That's,
Thank you.
yeah, and then, you know, we may be tracking costs now, which is good, but as soon as, Paul starts filling, the next budget, which is gonna be coming up soon, as soon as he starts doing that, suddenly, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And Bill.
You're invited to our finance committee meetings
Yeah.
and participate.
I've got enough.
Yeah. Don't
Okay, thank you.
So this is just a workshop, we're really not coming to any real decisions.
No, that's why I'm hesitant to give you too much on the number side of things, because once I know that this is, I have to plug this specific number into that, and that's why I'm giving you Jim. My guess is, once we kind of refine this number, plug it in, figure this out, you're gonna see somewhere between 53 and 57 cents per unit, something like that. And, but that I'm gonna take to the finance committee next week before we take it to the board, so that we can.
But that
The thing that
53
gives
and
me-
57 cents would cover the proposed M&I. With it minus the cost for engineering.
Not M&I, but O&M.
O&M.
Oh, and then, yeah.
Too many abbreviations.
Variations.
You'll catch up.
Lost.
So, whenever we decide, I still believe the one thing that we have to maintain is a lean and mean budget. In other words, there can't be, the extra things, yeah.
All the tools and,
Well, maybe
No,
not,
no, I think the tools are necessary.
no backtracking.
Well,
What?
yeah,
No
that's quite possible.
no backtracking.
That's quite possible, yeah. Maybe that's a goal in a few years.
I think that we have to be lean and mean and I've spoken to you personally about things that, it's like when you first get married and you have all these wants and none of the money to get it. And so you decide what you have to do and what you can do, and the other is wish listed down the road. We've got a wish list, but there's some things we've got to take care of, and the treatment plant is it.
Right, and I'd like to tag on to that. I know we have a little room in the budget to make up the difference between the actual money collected and the actual, cost of the O&M for the water treatment plant, but it's designed that the O&M be covering that itself, and so if we take from the general fund, then we're taking away from something else the district might need.
We're doing the same thing that has been done before.
That they did in 2018. Yes. We're undercutting ourselves, and I think, to your point, we'd be moving backwards.
I'd like to see some money be put into the reserves too.
Well, you have
We- we
4.1%
have our
going
goals.
in.
Yeah, that was one of the goals of the committee, was to
Right.
get the reserves up and running again.
They are.
That's
they are.
good.
Yeah, again, that's one reason why there's value of having a workshop. In the last 16 months, there's a lot of new stuff going on around here. And one of them is the budgetary process. We reported to the board not only our, half-year budget to actuals, we also reported our balance sheet, and then also reported that the requisite monies from the usage rate and the base rate are going into reserves. So, that's why I can say we're on better financial footing than we had before. And this coming April 17th meeting, we're gonna look at our third quarter actuals to budget, so we're gonna see how those things are going. That's gonna help us create our future budget. So I think, that part of it, we really are doing a really good job on, and that's part of the discussion that we need to have for the coming year. Now, one of the reasons, I know some of you didn't like it, but one of the reasons why the distribution division and the treatment division had a new line item in the budget that's never been there before, and it's called capital improvement. That's where we go hire an engineer to start to look at, what the major costs are. That's where we've used some money to pay for some things like the update to the South Booster. So those are just ways that we're managing a very tight cash flow and a very tight budget. And so, I think I hear the direction. We're gonna put these things into the chart. And like I said, I think you're basically adding costs because chlorine is more and O&M is more and utilities are pretty much the same. And you're taking a little bit of cost out for, in the, like, as you mentioned, Chair Lincoln, about the actual cost of water, and that's gonna equal a 2 or 3 cent increase overall.
The thing that bothered me most is we said to everybody, use more water so we can get our rate up. And then we're gonna charge them more for it. That was what bothered me, and, that's why I'd like to, see it down as low as possible,
While still covering costs.
So you don't wanna give it away. They were giving it away for too many years.
And that's not necessarily true though either, because ag people were paying,
A surcharge.
two different base rates.
Well, some people were, but
I was paying
normally,
an extra 20
they were
dollars.
underpaying for years.
I know the community is tired of my little screed, but I did bring this prop for a particular reason, and that is, all water really is free. And so what do we pay for? We pay for its cleanliness and its convenience. We know there's a couple billion people in the world today that spent half their day getting their free water in 5-gallon buckets and then boiling it and all the rest
I'm
of that.
drinking your water right now.
Good. So, Costco is the cheapest. What do you think we paid for this? 50 cents, right?
Oh, no.
So 50 cents.
Not at
a truck.
$3.99 for a 35-pack.
If you go to the airport, it costs you $3. But if this is just 50 cents,
Yes.
okay?
$3.
You know how much a unit that would be at this rate?
We went to one venue.
$6,000
We went to one venue in North Dakota, they charged us $3
for one of
for
those.
one of those.
Jeez. So,
Out of the tap.
so there's 8,
Probably.
there's 8 of these in a gallon, right? So if it's $4 a gallon and it's 748 gallons per unit, that's a lot. So I think we got our direction, what we'll do for the chair's purpose. Finance committee will get these numbers in an updated version of this chart, and then we'll take it to you on the 17th.
I won't be here on the 17th, it's my 75th birthday. So unfortunately, I'm going to Cattleman's for dinner. But make a smart choice. That's all I can ask of you.
Finance committee will be meeting next Tuesday at 4 here.
What time?
4 o'clock.
Next Tuesday,
Next
okay.
Tuesday.
Here.
My birthday's 4 days later,
Oh, okay.
but I'll only be 70
You'll
years.
get a lot of good work.
But she doesn't have a gray hair at all.
No, I like that.
What's
Wish
up
I-
with that? I don't like that.
You're a very young looking 75.
I think we're done,
Thank you.
unless we have anything else.
Final
Thank you,
statement?
Bill.
Oh, there's a LAFCO meeting tomorrow, probably, I couldn't pop it up on my thing at 9 AM, and my Thursdays are completely booked
Yeah.
now, so, just in case anybody was available.
Ugh.